Welcome back, McFly subscribers. This is what we're going to be tying today. This is a super quick, easy pattern that is great for sunfish and bluegill. So if you don't already know, I am going to be starting teaching some classes for kids on how to fly fish. It's a little camp kind of retreat thing, and they do hunting, fishing, stuff like that with the kids. And they get instructors in to teach the different disciplines. And they asked me to teach the fly fishing, which that is what I'm going to be doing. But I've got to tie up a whole bunch of flies for these kids, and there's a lot of sunfish there. It's on the Nueces River. They also have like a little stocked pond for bass and bluegill. I think they got catfish there too, but mainly, for fly fishing, I'm just focusing on getting those kids hooked up to a fish or two, and that's going to be sunfish. Those are the easiest to be able to get a kid to catch. These are kids aged from 8 up to, I think they go up to like 18. That's what we're doing. These are probably the easiest thing to tie, and they work, especially for sunfish. It's just a little foam spider. Really easy, and let's not make it complicated. That's the whole point. I want to be able to tie something that I can make, a dozen in a few minutes and not have to waste a whole bunch of material, a whole bunch of time tying things that I know the kids are just gonna put in a tree or a bush or snap off with a really bad cast. So let's get to it. So to start, you're gonna want to prepare some material. We've got 2mm fly foam. I'm using yellow. You can use any color you want. I mean, bright really works for sunfish, like this orange. You can go with like chartreuse, but you can go other colors. You can go like brown, that's common. You can go black, that's pretty common. Any color really you want. I mean, fly foam comes in a number of different colors. So what we're doing is we're cutting a strip slightly larger than the hook gap right there. You can see now that's with this hook. Some hooks are a wide gap, and in that case you would want to go with roughly the same width, but you can see there. So again, another different type of measurement would be about half of the hook shank. Now, some hooks are a little bit shorter, so you're gonna have to play with this of what you like, but generally I find a little bit larger than the hook gap works for me. So you cut out a strip about that width that you're looking for, and again, it depends on what hook size you're using. So we're gonna measure the hook length, which is right there. And then we're going to go back about the hook gap, roughly, because we want to have that tail sticking off the back just slightly. So that's the length that we're cutting. And once you cut one, then you can just go through and use that as a template, right? And cut a whole bunch more. I prepare the material, the whole strip. I'll prepare maybe 5 of these. And by the way, I already tied one with one of these, but there you go. So I got 4 of them in that one strip of fly foam. Like I said, I usually get 5. So now we're going to do something more to it. We're going to take just the tips of the corners here and lightly cut those off like so. Don't like that. There we go. So now we've got a little rounded head to it. Then we're going to take the back end and we're going to start about halfway down. Okay, so Here is the end. I'm going to go halfway down, and that's where we start the cut, roughly. And we are going to angle, so that way we cut off right into a point. Well, if we cut the second part off. So there's that cut. There's that cut. And now we've got a point. Now this one's not perfectly even on both sides. I've got more of a notch cut off at the end. You can mess with that. They also sell cutters for this. If you want to go to River Road Cutters, I believe, they'll sell something I think that is pretty darn similar to this, and then you can get them all uniform. Nature is not perfect, so I tend to I love the River Road Cutters for certain projects, but for something like this, I'm looking for quick. It doesn't take any time to do that. The hooks today I'm using are Risen's Barbless Nymph, and it's the 9231. Okay, and it's size 14. And the thread is Vivis 10/0, and it's in like a pale yellow. You can use any thread you want if you want to have some difference in color. Besides, matching with your foam, you can do that. It's up to you. So we're just going to start this. Doesn't have to be right at the head of the fly there. We're at the eye of the hook. You don't have to. You can. But we're just bringing it down. You can snap or break off the end or the waist. And then we're coming down to the bend. I come up back one more wrap just to ensure it stays put. And we're just creating a thread base here. You don't have to do this. You could just tie the foam right on, but I like adding a little bit of dubbing. This is a dry fly dubbing. It's a UV2 fine and dry. And I'm using the BWO color. You can use any color you want. It's kind of a yellowish. If you want to have some contrast, you can do something different for the dubbing, but I like this because it gets really fine. It's also a dry fly dubbing, so it's going to help keep this floating. Not that foam needs a whole lot of help, but we're just coating the bottom. This does not even have to be perfect, guys. See, I'm all wonky. I've got kind of, it's thinner here, it really doesn't matter. In fact, some differences in thickness, I think, kind of add to it. Spiders are weird shaped and funky. All right, so we're covering up all those thread wraps. And like I said, this does not matter. You don't have to do this. I think it adds to the fly a little, but this is not a mandatory step. If you want to just make this as simple as possible, you can, but I find that it does help keep this foam together and keeps it from sliding around the hook a little better, especially with this next step. So I've got this super glue, and I'm gonna paint a little right on top. You can see I just did a couple little dabs there. I like to turn this so it's facing me. Make sure I've got this laid right on top, and I've got the head here right up to the hook, the eye of the hook. And I like to make sure that's on nice and even. Bring back it around, and I make 3 wraps, and then cinch that down. And then we can make a couple more. And I want to create a little bit of space here. Instead of it being really thin, I actually want to bring that thread back a little bit, create a little bit of space, and that's going to help keep those rubber legs from flaring too much. A little flare is good, but too much is bad. There we go. So there's the body, there's the head, just a little spider body. Next, I've got these centipede legs in the yellow. I'm just going to take one of them. You can use any that you want, any legs that you want, but I really like these round ones. I think they work better for this kind of fly. And I really like the kind of spotted, speckled look. I think it adds to this. And by the way, when cutting out the foam, I just use kind of like a longer scissor. This is Fiskars scissors that you just get them at like Walmart or whatever. Actually, these were given to me by a subscriber. Thank you, Justin. But then when doing the rest of the fly, you want something really fine tip. Okay, so see how fine that tip is versus something you buy at the store. See how much thicker that is. See the difference? This gets you in really tight, allows you to have more precise cuts, and this is by Risen Fly, so same as the hooks. I love these mitten scissors. They're great. What I do is I take one of these strands, okay, and I double it up on itself. So now I've got 2. And I tie it in with the front a little bit shorter than the back. It really doesn't matter that much. And I make 3 loose wraps, and then I cut the top. I can pull this around to the side, pull that around to the side. Make sure that they're exactly where you want them. There you go. I like them kind of, I don't want them angled downward or straight up, right? So we want them kind of sideways. Once you're happy with that, oop. See, if you over tighten, it's going to flare those out too much. So if that happens, just come back in, make a couple loose wraps, and then bring it back over. So if you noticed, I skipped up over and underneath and went right behind the hook eye there. All right, so now we can fix that because it did flare. See how this, they kind of came together, and we're wanting them to kind of separate a little bit. So let's go ahead and whip finish. Just a 4-turn whip finish is fine. And see, my mistakes, I can teach you guys something. So I always leave them in. No one ties perfectly. We make mistakes. I pulled too hard and I made those go in, but we can fix that. So we want to make sure that these stay sideways on the fly like this and don't, spin around. So I've got this stuff. It's called Solarez UV curing resin, and this is their ultra thin, or they call it bone dry. We're just gonna take it, and it has this little paintbrush applicator. We're gonna spread that, put a little dot there, spread it, put a dot there. So there we go. Now we can pull this back, pull that up, and really we probably should have done just one side at a time. All right, so we can go like that and angle them where we want them, and then hit it with the UV light. And if you notice, that spread those out much more. See how it is? So that is how we fix that issue. These are too long in the front, so I pull them up and I get them both at the same length, about double from the hook eye, so double the length. So there you go, you can see the length there. And then in the back, I just take whatever the length the tail is, and I come back maybe a hook gap like so. And that's how I like it. You don't have to do it that way. You can have them shorter, you can have them longer. Too long and they're gonna foul on the hook often. I find that's a pain. But too short, there's no movement. So I mean, it's up to you guys. You do it how you want. All right, so I'm just gonna take that same Solarez and I'm gonna paint here. And I'm also going to paint up under like so. Maybe get a little bit more. And this is going to, it's already raised a little bit, okay? But over time, that's going to want to flatten and push down. What we're doing is we're building up a little bit of stuff underneath. We're going to hold that back like so. We're going to cure it. And this cures your whip finish, but it also, look at that, can't push that down as much. So that keeps that angled up, which makes it much easier to tie on, okay? And you could even tie this further up on the hook and right behind the hook eye and have that tail back. It's up to you. I think that looks cleaner, but again, I'm tying these for kids to be fishing and just catching bluegill. Bluegill do not care. And I'm looking for simplicity. So I want to be able to tie these quick, and I also want to be able to tie them on their line much, much quicker. And having this too far up, especially without doing that Solarez curing resin trick, sometimes it's really hard to be able to get that peeled back and tie that on. Especially since it's just me, and there's, I think, 10 kids, 11 kids or something like that. So that's going to be a lot of me tying some flies on. So I can just imagine it's going to be just me tying flies on all day long, basically. So I just want to make that easy for myself. But scoot this up. If you're fishing for yourself, scoot that up a little bit more to like right there. In fact, I did that here. You can see it's a little further up. Okay, and that's not sticking out as much. But that's still pretty easy to tie on right there. Especially if you've got a down eye like this. You don't want to tie this with a straight eye. You really need that down eye. But there we go. This should float really well. It catches, this color is really good for sunfish. Black and yellow always works. So you could do a black body with yellow legs if you want to. You could do yellow body, black legs. You can do speckled like this. Have fun with it. Like I said, any color you want. Red, orange, If you want to go more natural and do like an olive or maybe a gold or brown, light brown, tan, whatever it may be, if you want to match the different spiders on the water. I don't even know if they call it a spider. I don't even know if that's necessarily what the fish think this is when they strike it. Up to you guys, but quick little pattern here. I can probably tie maybe a dozen or more in about 20 minutes if I really get going at it. So, you know, that really helps with being able to make a whole bunch, especially if you're taking your kids fishing. I mean, or someone else fishing, and you know you're going to be tying a bunch on. You don't want to lose, or if you're in an area where you know that you lose a lot of flies, like heavy brush, bring something like this. Any foam fly, really, if they're hitting the top. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please check out my sponsor, Risen Fly. They made the hooks today, and also the tools that I use, like these scissors. They're really, I love using Risen stuff. They're a great company. The owner I've chatted with many times, just a stand-up guy. Really good people over there, and their prices are very, very good for the quality that they are. I mean, some places you can get good prices, but then you're getting junk. But you're not sacrificing on quality, even though that their prices are really good. Best off, they're offering everyone a discount that is my subscriber. So if you're watching this, type in McFly at checkout when you go to www.risenfly.com, and you'll get 15% off your first order with them. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. If you guys like this kind of content, please subscribe and hit that bell notification for future video updates. Also, if you could hit the like button, it would really help me and the channel out. I will see you on the next video. Now you go catch some fish.